Hello everyone, welcome to BISP Solutions. I am Preeti, working as Oracle Fusion Functional Consultant. So in today's session, we will see the setups related to project portfolio management. First, we will take an overview of the topics that we have completed till date. So in our first session, we have discussed how to create the implementation and what are the roles that we have to provide to the user, and on what basis we will provide the data access to the user so that that user can perform the configurations related to project portfolio management. Then I told you that project portfolio management is the module that works at business unit level. So we have seen the task related to business unit, that is create business unit. Then we have seen how to assign the business unit function to the business unit, how to provide the business unit data access to the user. Then we have seen how to provide the reference data set to the business unit. Then in the next session we have seen how to create the organization hierarchy. So for creating the organization hierarchy, we have to first create the department. These departments are based on the cost center of our organization. Then we have seen how to create the job for the user. Then we have seen that there is one more concept, that is project unit, which is used for reporting purpose, and this project unit configuration is the configuration which was not available in the EBS. This is a new additional functionality which is provided by the Oracle in the Fusion application. So we have to create the project unit. Then in the project unit option, we have to associate the project unit with the business unit. Then we have seen how to provide the reference data set to the project unit. Then we have seen how to create the organization hierarchy and classification. We classify the organization in two ways. First is project task owning organization, and the another one is project expenditure organization. Then in the managed project organization classification, we will classify these organization into these two ways. Then in the day 3 topic, we have seen how to create the organization tree. While creating the organization tree, we have to select the business unit under which we have to select all the organization will be expenditure organization and task owning organization. You can create n number of versions in the organization tree. And then you have seen how to assign this organization tree to the project accounting business function. When you configure project accounting business function, there you have to give the organization tree detail so that the system can read and can pick the organization tree while creating the transaction in the project. Then in the continuation to day 3, we have discussed how to link the user, the implementation user, to the employee user. And then we have seen how to create the calendar for the project purpose. So project portfolio management module is the only module in which you have the additional functionality that you can use the different accounting periods for the project purpose. You does not have access to use another accounting periods for any other module. This is a functionality which is specifically available to the project portfolio management module, where you can use different accounting period from GL. Say if you want weekly period, then you can create your own project accounting period in the project portfolio management. Or if you are using the monthly calendars in the project, then you can use the same accounting calendar as you are using in your general ledger. Then we have seen how to create the project types. So there are some examples of project types, like internal project type, which we are using for internal purpose. Then we can see how to create the project type for capital project. Capital project means the cost that you are later capitalizing as asset. Then we have seen how to create the billing project type. In the billing project, you have to generate the invoices and against which you can recognize the revenue. Then we have seen how to configure the project numbering manually or automatic. Then in the day 4 topic we have discussed how to create the template, how to select the project plan type for that template, and how to create the task structure. Then we have seen how to create the project. While creating the project you have to first select the template, so we have to first create template and then we have to create the project. For creating the project, a user requires the data access. So you have to provide the data access to project accountant role, project administrator role, then project manager role, and you have to provide the data access on the basis of business unit level. Then only your user will be able to create the project in the project portfolio management in Oracle Fusion application. And in the day 5 topic we have seen how to create the revenue category, expenditure category, unit of measure. And after creating all these 3 tasks, you have to assign that to expenditure type class. Expenditure type class is a very mandatory setup in the project portfolio management. So you have to assign revenue category, expenditure category and unit of measure while creating the expenditure type class. Then in the day 6 topic we have seen if we want to track the asset on the additional basis. Say if I want to know from how many locations and from which location my project is operating its business, you can classify it in the class category and you can give the location as class code there. So in this way you can create the project class category. Then we have seen what is the service type, project status, project roles and resource class. Then in our yesterday's session we have discussed what is the project plan type and what is the financial plan type. So project plan type basically works for planning purpose, and with the financial plan type we create the budgets in the projects. Then we have seen rate schedules. So whenever we are assigning any resource to our project, how to calculate the rate for that resource, the system will pick the rates from the rate schedules. Then we have seen how to create labor costing rules, and if you are providing any extra pay for the overtime purpose, then we have to select the labor costing multiplier, and there they have to mention the rate for overtime purpose. In this way you can create the multiplier. And in the organization costing rules you have to mention the rate schedule and labor costing rules, and there you have to assign your business unit. So while creating any transaction related to resource in your project, the system will pick the rates for the same from the organization costing rules because it is based on the business unit level task. Now in today's session we will discuss the SLA configuration required in project portfolio management. So let's take a SLA overview. Oracle has provided standard accounting derivation for all the possible events of different aspects of business. However, there could be requirement of deriving custom accounting on certain conditions or business events. Subledger accounting is a rule-based accounting engine that centralizes accounting for Oracle Fusion products. Subledger accounting is not a separate product in itself, rather it's Oracle's engine catering to the accounting needs of both Oracle and external modules. Now, in other modules, you have an option to manually select your accounting combination. But in the project module, you don't have the option to select your combination manually. When you are creating your transaction, it has to be derived from your subledger accounting configuration. It is must for project module to set up your SLA configuration, then only it will derive debit or credit through the transaction type. When you are creating the transaction in your project, at the same time system create the journal entry, that is debit and credit of the entry, and transfer it to GL. Therefore, it is must and it is mandatory to create the SLA setup in the application for your project module, because you cannot enter it manually. In the other subledger accounting module you have this functionality, but in the project module you don't have this functionality. So it is must to create the SLA configuration in the application for your project module. Now, type of the transaction that you can create in your project and the journal entries in projects are time cards. These are the transaction type. You can create the transaction for time cards, miscellaneous transactions, usage transactions, burden transactions. So let me explain what are the kind of transaction are these. So what is the time card transaction? Time cards are employee time sheet. Whenever the employee is creating a time sheet for their working hours, it is called time cards. So here we will use the labor resource rates, because employee is our labor and we will use the labor resource rates for this purpose. And what will be the entry for these labor or time card expenses? We will debit the labor raw cost and we will credit the labor raw cost clearing. Now what are the miscellaneous transactions? It means non-labeled transaction. The expenses that are not related to your labor are miscellaneous transactions. And what will be the entry for this miscellaneous transaction is, we will debit the miscellaneous raw cost and we will credit the miscellaneous raw cost clearing. Then we will discuss what is the usage transaction. Say if you are using the internal equipment of an organization or asset of an organization for the project purpose, then you add the cost of that usage of that asset to your project. It is a non-labor resource. Here we will use non-labor resource rates. So in the usage transaction, it is non-labor resource transaction. Also usage means equipment. So if you are using equipment for your project, then on what basis you will distribute the cost to the project of that equipment, we will decide here. Now say we have an asset in our organization and we are using that asset for 5 projects. Then on the basis of hours, we will distribute the cost of that asset into those 5 projects. And this will be our non-labor resource, and the non-labor resource rates will be applicable to this usage transactions. Now, while passing the journal entry, we will debit the usage raw cost and we will credit the usage raw cost clearing. Now, burden transaction. It is like overheads. If you want to create the overhead transaction and allocate to your multiple projects, then we can use the burden transactions. While creating the entry for burden transaction, we will debit the burden raw cost and we will credit the burden raw cost clearing. Now these are the subledger accounting setups that you are required to do in the project portfolio management module. So first we will see what is the mapping set, then we will go through the accounting rules, journal entries rules, accounting method and specified ledger. So what is the description rule? What information you want to display at journal line level, you will select here. Example, if you are creating expenses for your project and you want to display the information. So say I want to know what is the project name, project number, expenses type, task name and task number. When you see the journal, you will get a prima facie information like to which project this expense belongs to. So while creating the description rule, you can select the information that you want to display at the time of journal entry. from description rules you will get a prima facie information that which kind of expense is this and to which project it is relating. So now I will move to my application and see where we can create this description rules and how we can select the fields for the description rules. Now go to setup and maintenance. In the setup area, select the project financial management. Now for creating the SLA setups, you have to go to the functional area as project accounting. So scroll it little down. So you can see here the functional area is project accounting. So whatever the SLA setups we are required to do in the application, you will find in the project accounting functional area. So let me click on required task. Again click on all tasks. So from this page you can set up the SLA configuration. So right now we are discussing the description rules. So you can see the task here, that is manage description rules. Click on it. So this is the description rules. These are the standard description rules which are provided by the Oracle. So whatever the description rules you are able to see on the screen, these are the predefined by Oracle. So let me open the standard expenditure description rule. So whenever you will create the expenditure transaction in the application, these are the information that will be prima facie available on the creation of journal. You will be able to see the business unit name, project number, task number, transaction number, expenditure ID, expenditure category, expenditure type. So while creating the transaction that is related to expenditure in the project module, this is the information which you will be able to see at the time of journal. Now click on done. Now while generating revenue, what are the information that you will be able to see in the journal line? You can see the contract business unit. So this revenue belongs to which business unit, you will be able to see here. Business unit name, contract number, contract line, project number, task number. So you will be able to track the project number to which project this revenue relates. Also under the project, what is the task number which is responsible for this revenue generation. You will be able to know from this information what is the event type and what is the revenue category. Click on done. So in this way, as per our business requirement, we can create the description rules, and description rules is nothing but the prima facie information of expenses or revenue that we want to see while creating the journal. So prima facie you will be able to see the information that from which project you are able to generate this revenue, or from which project this expense is relatable. Now click on done. For creating your own description rules, you can click on this create icon. Right now I'm not creating any description rules. These rules are sufficient. Click on done. Move back to our PPTs. Now we will discuss mapping sets. Mapping sets provide an efficient way to define the segment or account combination value for one or more transaction or reference attribute values. Using such input and output mapping is similar than using complex conditions on accounting rules. Based on the value of source input, a single segment or a full account is derived. So in the mapping set, what we do, we map our organization, like we will map our expenditure organization. So when we are using our organization as finance organization, then which account should be picked from general ledger accounts, we will map there. So whenever we will create a transaction in the project using finance expenditure organization in the project module, then directly it will pick an account from the general ledger accounts, and then on the basis of that account it will create the journal entry in the account and it will transfer to general ledger. So in the application we will see how it works, what will be the input and what will be the output for it. So you can see here the task as manage mapping sets. Click on this task. Now these are the already creating mapping sets. For creating your own mapping set, you have to click on this create icon. Now here in the name, you can give the name of your mapping set. Say I want to create a mapping set for cost center. That is a department that I have created in the project module for expenditure purpose. I will show you where I have created these departments or cost centers and from where system will pick these departments. Select the setup as project financial management. Go to workforce structures and then go to manage departments. So these are the departments that I have created. Now I will show it to you where I have classified these departments as project expenditure organization and project task owning organization. Go to project organization. Go to manage organization hierarchy and classifications. So go to manage project organization classification. Click on search. give the date here and then click on search. Again go to setup and maintenance. Select the project financial management here and then go to project organization. So you can see here, first it was not coming. Select it as say finance department and click on OK. Select the date here and then click on search. Now you can see the classification of this department here. So in the department I have shown you what are the departments that we have created, and now in the classification I am trying to show you that here we can classify this department into project expenditure organization and task owning organization. In the same way you can see the other department details here or other departments classification. So in the same way you can see the admin department, it is classified as expenditure organization and task owning organization. So same is for sales, it is also classified in both these options. Again click on search for this purchase. So we have also classified this purchase department into project expenditure organization and task owning organization. Now move back to our manage mapping sets page. So what we will do, we will use these cost centers and we will map these cost centers, that is expenditure organization. I am only talking about mapping these expenditure organization. So whatever the organizations are classified as project expenditure organization, I will map it with the company segment of the general ledger accounts. Now here I have to give the name to this mapping set, so I am taking it as PPM cost center. Give the short name here. Now what kind of output type I need? So I am working on segment basis, so I will select it here as segment. You can see here it is taking subledger application by default as project costing. So whenever I will create the transaction and I will select these organizations or expenditure organizations, whatever the output data I will fill here will be picked from general ledger accounts. So what will be the input? We have to select in the input source here. Subledger application is project costing. Now in the source I will take it as expenditure organization. So for what I am creating this mapping set? For the expenditure organization. So let's select the expenditure organization. Click on search. So these are the expenditure organization available. Now let's select any organization without event class. Click on apply and then click on OK. Select the value set here. So I am taking this where I will be able to see my all organizations related to expenditure organization. So click on OK. Now we have given the input source. So we will input expenditure organization. Now what should be the output result? We have to select it in the chart of accounts. Click on this add icon. Then select here the chart of accounts that we have linked it with our ledger. So this is the chart of accounts that I am using. Now what segment value you want as output? So I want to map the expenditure organization values to the values of the company segment. So take it as company or cost center. So I will map the expenditure organization with the cost center segment of the chart of accounts. Now come to the mappings. Click on add icon. Now search here for the expenditure organization that you have created. Now you are able to see all the expenditure organizations available in the application. Go to search. Click on, give the name here, then click on search. So you can see the organization that you are able to see on the screen are the organization which are classified as expenditure organizations, as we have taken the source as expenditure organization. Now click on this organization. whenever I will create the entry or transaction in the project with the PPM finance expenditure organization, what should be the cost center that a system should pick from the chart of accounts. So you can see here I am taking it as 700, which is related to finance in the cost center of chart of accounts. Now click on add icon. Give the start date here, but it is not mandatory. Click on search. Search the account or cost center which is related to admin department in the charts of accounts. So there is no such account. So I want, when I am taking the expenditure organization as PPM admin, the system should pick 120 or division US from the cost center of chart of accounts. Click on this create icon. Again click on create icon. In this way you can map the sets. You can see here that whenever we will create the transaction with these expenditure organization, what system will do, whatever the cost center values of chart of accounts you are mentioning here, it will automatically pick those cost centers while passing the journal entry in the general ledger module. So in this way you can map it. So we have created the mapping set for cost center. Now click on save and close. So we have seen how to create the mapping set for the cost center. Now let's create one more mapping set for expenditure type. So whenever you will create the transaction with these expenditure types, what should be the accounts that system should pick from your accounts of chart of accounts, and on the basis of those the system will create the journal entry in the general ledger module. So come here and we will see the expenditure types that we have created in the project portfolio management module. Click on this project foundation. Now you can see here the task as manage expenditure type. So you can see here the expenditure type that we have created in the application. Now what I will do, I will create the mapping set for all these expenditure types, and whenever you will pass the transaction or create the transaction in the project using these expenditure type, so system will pick the accounts from the chart of accounts account segment, and on the basis of that mapping it will create the journal entry and will transfer it to general ledger module in the Fusion application. Now again go to mapping set here, give the name here, in the output type I will take it as segment. Now give the input source here, so I am taking it as expenditure type. Again select any expenditure type which does not have event class assigned to it. Click on apply and then click on OK. Now come to charts of accounts. Here you have to select your chart of accounts. Now from which segment you want your system to pick your output values, take it as account here. Now come to mappings, click on create, select the expenditure type here, click on airfare, so see, whenever I will create any transaction related to airfare charges, what system will do? System will pick 60500 account, which is denoted to travel expenses, will be debited because we have selected here the mapping as whenever the airfare will be used in the project, you have to use the account of travel expense from the chart of accounts account segment. In this way mapping will work. Again click on create icon. Now select the cab expenses. So we have a separate account for airfare charges. So cab expenses will be mapped with the travel expenses. Click on create icon. Search any expenses available for miscellaneous expenses. Now select the different account for external labor expenses. Select the material and now search for material expenses. Search for the burden expenses. So overtime is left. Click on it and then search for overtime expenses here. So select the usage now and select for the expenses related to usage. Let's give the date in these mapping sets. So whenever you will the expenditure types while creating the transaction in the project, then what system will do, as I told you in the beginning of the session, that system will create the journal entry directly and it will pick the accounts from your SLA configurations. So we have mapped here the expenditure type that we are using in the project, and it will map with the accounts that we are using in the GL, that is general ledger accounting chart of accounts. It is taking these accounts from the chart of accounts. So whenever you will use these expenditure type in your project module, system will automatically pick these accounts from the account segment of the chart of accounts. Whatever the chart of accounts you are using, it will pick the accounts from that chart of accounts, and on the basis of that values it will create the journal entry for your project transactions. So in this way you can create the mapping between the project and the values, segment values you are using in your general ledger module. Click on save and close. So in today's session we have taken the overview of subledger accounting, then we have seen what is the description rule, and then we have seen what is the mapping rule and how to create the mapping rule in the application. So thank you so much for watching the video. In case if you have any query, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much and have a good day.